How you doing, everybody? And good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday morning Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm Mac with my co-host Jack, and Jack is a legendary boxing writer, former president of the president of the Writers Boxing Association.
Boxing Writers Association of America. You usually say national, and it is national. You're not wrong when you say it.
Okay.
For technical purposes, it's called Boxing Writers Association of America.
Okay, and we're live here on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Check us out at macandjacksports.com or at MacMan62. Please like, share, and subscribe where you can. If you'd like to comment during the show, go to the Mac Sports page and like the page. So how you doing today, Jack?
I'm great. How are you, Mac?
I'm hanging in there. Another busy day last night at work. I subbed in at a restaurant instead of doing my normal chef catering job, making pizzas. I haven't done that by myself in about 4 months, Jack. So you should have seen me trying to keep up with that, with the amount of people coming in and doing hand-stretched pizzas.
Does New York have the best pizza?
I mean, I don't know. I know. I think up here in Northeast does. They say Chicago does a great deep pan pizza, and there's always an argument. New Jersey, New York, down in Southern Connecticut, they make some good pizza. I've experimented with doughs. I've made the Greek style, which is a thicker crust, the Italian. In between that, I mean, I make pizza at home too, so my wife really enjoys that. So I got my own recipe for that. And the same thing with the sauce.
You make your own pizza. You don't buy like your frozen pizza and just throw it in the oven. You actually make it.
Yes, it's really not that hard, Jack. Once you learn how to make dough, once you could get dough rising, you could pretty much make any kind of pizza, any kind of breads or stuff like that. Once you learn it, it's not easy.
I don't know, Mac. Take something like Thanksgiving coming up next month and all the people who cook. There's nothing like a home-cooked meal.
Not at all.
Okay? But for all the money they're spending, buying the food, the extras, the this and that, they may as well just order in.
I know.
They have these Thanksgiving specials. It'll be the same, and they won't have to do the work unless they enjoy doing the work, because I know there's a certain pride involved and a certain satisfaction in doing it. But unless there's that satisfaction involved in actually cooking it, price-wise, you better ordering in. I was at Costco the other day, and I'm looking at the meat, okay? Meat, you buy a pack, it was $60. And I'm thinking there are 3 little steaks in there. Heck, I could order out for $60 for 3 people.
Well, you know something, Jack. Me and my wife both cook. My wife is very an excellent cook, catering chef. She makes almost everything from scratch. And her grandmother, when they came over from Italy, she ended up learning how to cook from her grandmother, who had her own farm. She used to go out and actually slaughter pigs and cows. This older grandmother used to do this. They would rent out her services. So my wife was shucking green beans and peas at about 3 years old, feeding chickens at about 5. And she learned everything from her. I've been cooking for over 40 years. So we enjoy, if you do it right, if you know how to prepare a meal, it's a lot cheaper than going out and buying food, Jack.
Well, that's old school.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
Old school.
So today in the show, Jack, we have scheduled Rich Coutinho coming in. He's a Mets reporter. He also does work for the Jets. He's had a death in the family. His uncle has passed away, and he's kind of helping out his aunt. So he may not be here today, and we'll kind of cover for him. But we do have definitely coming on Mike Brombley, the former pitcher of the Minnesota Twins and a couple other teams. Great relief pitcher.
11 years in the league. 11 years. How many pitchers last 11 years? That's a career.
It sure is, and he pitched mainly for the Twins. I got there just after they won their World Series, and we'll have him on. And I want to ask him some questions at being what it takes to be a Major League Baseball pitcher. I mean, I have a lot of pitchers that come up and try to do this, and I think it takes a lot more than just throwing a ball 98 miles an hour. So we're going to talk to him.
And he played with a couple of Hall of Famers.
Yes,
Kirby Puckett and Dave Winfield.
Yes, he did.
Morris was on that team too when he first came up.
Yeah, I mean, rookie of the year. He's a great pitcher. So we'll be talking to him about 9:30. So let's get to the sports updates if we can. I'm going to go all the way back to Monday with the baseball when the Yankees won 9-3 versus the Rays on Monday night. Aaron Hicks went 3 for 4, scores 1, strives in 2. Kyle Higashioka, the backup catcher, Urshela, DJ LeMahieu all had 2 hits. Stanton drives in 4. Derek Cole pitches 6, gives up 3 runs, but strikes out 8. And both Judge and Stanton go deep. And the Astros beat the A's 10-5 with Altuve and Correa. They both drive in. Well, together they drive in 6 of the 10 Astros runs. So the Yankees had a real good showing the first game, but they came back Tuesday night, and the Yanks lost to the Rays 7-5. Now the series is at 1-1. The Astros went up 2-0, beating the A's 5-2. The Braves beat the Marlins 9-5. The Dodgers beat the Padres 5-1. So both LA and Atlanta go up 1-0 in the series. So I mean, it's pretty much what we thought in the National League, Jack. And even I thought that way with the Astros too. I mean, the A's are a good young team. The Astros have the experience. They've been there before, and it's showing up. So do you think that the Padres have a chance at all with the Dodgers this year, Jack?
Oh, yeah. I mean, best 3 out of 5. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, I've seen crazy things happen over the years. I mean, it sticks out to the year 2006 more than any other year. The Detroit Tigers were absolutely awful. They had the division locked up. They collapsed so badly that on the last game of the season, when they were tied for first place with their manager, Jim Leland, even pitched their ace, Kenny Rogers, just so they could win the division, and they still lost. So they were horrendous going into the playoffs. They lost the first game to the Yankees, and it was a foregone conclusion. The Yankees were going to beat them because the Tigers were awful. Then all of a sudden, the Tigers steal a game at Yankee Stadium and then win the next 2 at home. And then they sweep Oakland, and they wind up going to the World Series, where they lose to the Cardinals. So everyone has a chance. I mean, the Dodgers would seem to have the best team by far. But you never know what could happen. They could hit a bad spell. A couple of their starters could have subpar performances. You can't tell with these short series. You never can.
Definitely. And how about your opinion on the Braves and Marlins, Jack? I mean, the Braves came out and hit the ball really well against the Marlins. The Marlins are kind of one of the Cinderella stories in baseball, with the former Yankees coaching the Marlins. Do you think they have a chance coming back against the Braves?
Well, sometimes the best thing to do is look at the individual teams and compare who are playing one another and make a comparison. If one team loses to the other, which team would be more upset going home for the year? And when you look at the Marlins in Atlanta, if Atlanta lost to Miami, think what a bad blow that would be to lose to a team like Miami and go home for the year. But if Miami loses to Atlanta, they're saying they had a hell of a year. Right. They had a tremendous year no matter what happens. Okay? So you have to feel the pressure is more on Atlanta, to actually win, even though Miami obviously is trying just as hard. The same way with the Dodgers and the Padres. The Padres have overachieved this year, and they have the talent going forward to be a serious World Series contender for years to come. But for the Dodgers, this is it. You can't every season feel you're the favorite, to win the World Series and so on. They finally got to do it at one point. And this year, they have as good a chance as any, because if they don't win it this year, how do they come to spring training next year with the same type of optimism?
I agree. And we'll get to Tuesday's game now with the Tuesday games, I should say, with the Yankees and with what happened yesterday. Again, I don't dislike Aaron Boone, but I don't know about how he manages the teams in big spots. I mean, we get our young pitcher in there. He pitches one inning, gives up 1 run, and because lefties are coming up, he switches to Happ. Now, I understand that if you're in the back of the bullpen and you want to do matchups against, at the end of the game, that's all well and good. I mean, I understand that. But to pull him after 1 inning after giving up 1 run.
He knew he was going to pull him. He knew it. It was decided before the game. Aaron Boone wanted the Rays to set their lineup a certain way, okay? So he knew they had 5 left-handed hitters to start, and that's how he wanted it. And then he would go to J. Happ in the 2nd inning. You saw Happ warming up in the bullpen in the 1st inning before Garcia gave up the home run.
Oh, I agree. That's why they brought him in.
Plan all along, because it did seem weird on the surface. Debbie Garcia pitching starting ahead of Tanaka and Happ, but
Right.
It was a designed strategy to bring Happ in the 2nd inning. So now they have that left-handed lineup, which Happ could, pitch against. So it was done by design, but it backfired only because Happ didn't pitch well.
Well, Jack, I mean, listen, this is a starting pitcher. This isn't a relief pitcher. This isn't something that I listen, if you're gonna start a starting pitcher, you let him go until he gets in trouble. And that's, to me, that's how you should be managing the team.
I have an Aaron Boone complaint, and I have
Right.
to go back. I haven't heard anyone else mention this, okay, anywhere. The last game of the regular season, there were a few runs down to the Miami Marlins, and it's a meaningless game for the Yankees because they locked up their seated position in the playoffs. So the game meant nothing to the Yankees. Gio Urshela is coming to the plate. He's hitting exactly 300. Why did he come up to bat at all? Leave him in the dugout, pinch hit for him to preserve his 300 average.
Right.
So he lets Urshela hit. He grounds out. Now he ends the year with 298. A meaningless at-bat.
I agree.
Meaningless at-bat, and think psychologically how it helps a guy, the difference between hitting 298 and 300. It's a much better feel to say, I was a 300 hitter. Why on earth was he hitting?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
and if Aaron Boone was unaware of the situation, where were the Yankee assistants, the guys who keep stats? How come no one informed him? Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously there was a breakdown over there, but in all likelihood, Aaron Boone knows guys' stats, what the situation is. And unless there's something truly on the line, you want to help the guy achieve that stat. And Aaron Boone just, didn't do it. Shame on him.
Well, again, I think it was a big mistake to start a kid in the second game. If you're going to start him, Jack, you let him go. If he gets in trouble, I mean, his starting pitcher, he has to match up against lefties. He has to match up against righties, or he wouldn't be a starting pitcher, or he's a relief pitcher. So to me, that was a big mistake by Boone. I think you not only did it backfire on him, I think now you're telling the kid that, hey, we don't have faith in you. And I really believe.
No, Mac, they do. Debbie Garcia is going to start game 4. Okay, that was the plan all along. Let him pitch 1 inning because 1 inning is going to not take anything out of his arm. It's not going to tire him out. Now he's going to have 2 days rest after pitching just 1 inning, which is the equivalent of just coming in for relief for an inning. So now he was going to bring Happ in right after Garcia, which he did. And Happ was going to have 8 innings to go. That was the thought, pitching basically the whole game. And then he has Tanaka for game 3. Garcia comes in for game 4. And you hope Garcia can give you 5 effective innings. And then you go to your bullpen in game 4. And, of course, Cole is there, if there's a game 5.
Yeah,
it was all laid out.
Whether it was laid out or not, Jack, whether it was laid out or not, I just don't agree with the decision. I think if you're going to go, I don't care about game 4 right now. I want to win the first 3 games. I don't worry about game 4. We'll worry about game 4 when you get to game 4. And to me, you're just playing with the kid's mind. You let him go in there. You let him pitch. It's the World Series. He's a rookie. Let him have his shot. Let us see what he can do for 5-6 innings. If he gets shelled, that's great. Then you got to do what you got to do.
Mac, you have to eat for 5 days, okay? 5 days, and you have a couple of $100, Mac. You don't want to go into a fancy steakhouse and spend $150 on a dinner and use your money up early. See, when you say you want to you just cap out the first 3 games, you got to think long term. You know, game 5, you're set with Cole on the mound, okay? And
right.
You milk Cole out as far as you can go into a game 5 and hope and there's no bridge plan between Cole and, and Britton and Chapman, nothing in between. Because if Cole can't give you a good 7 innings in a decisive final game 5 of a playoff series, you don't deserve to win. You want to lose with your ace.
You don't think Cole could have went in game 4 if he had to? You don't think he could?
2 days rest.
Of course he. Listen, it's all or nothing, Jack. You would go with your ace.
He's going on short rest, Mac.
I've seen in World Series where pitchers came back and pitched in game 3 when they had to, with 2 days of rest. I'm just saying, Jack, that to me, that strategy not only backfired, I think it was bad strategy. You go in there with your kid, you see what he can do. If he can't do it, then bring Happ in. Don't bring in Happ in the 2nd inning as a plan to me, and it backfired on him. So, I mean, I didn't like the decision when it happened. I'm not being a Monday night quarterback. I'm telling you, I just did not like the decision. You let the kid pitch, and you let him go as long as he can go, and you still got Tanaka, you still got Happ, and you still got Cole. And as far as your pitching rotation, I just don't understand that strategy at all. So anyway, I just don't.
Yeah, well, he wanted obviously Tampa Bay to set their lineup a certain way. So then when the Yankees would go to the bullpen later too, they would have used up their left-handed hitters like early in the game rather than start a couple of more right-handed hitters. It was all like a design strategy, kind of like a poker game. You want to have someone show their hand, beforehand. You kind of bluff them and so on. I think you're going to see more of that going forward with managers in the future. They're going to start someone for one inning, and so on, to have another team set their lineup. I think this is the start of a trend, actually, you're going to see. Whether it's going to be successful or not, we'll find out going forward.
Definitely. And one other decision I didn't like was that last at bat by Gary Sanchez, who's not hitting at all right now. I don't know why they didn't put in their second catcher who's been hitting the heck out of the ball. I don't know why they didn't pinch hit him and try to keep that game alive at the end. I have no idea why he didn't do that.
Well, Nat Anderson, the Rays relief. I mean, he faced 6 batters, struck out 4. It was phenomenal, too. So, with Gary Sanchez, if you're not going to play him in this spot, game 2, okay, then he's not the future of the Yankees at catcher. That means you've made up your mind. You've basically given up on him.
Okay? I go with the hot hand, Jack.
I don't think the Yankees at that point. I really don't, because he has a certain potential, to turn it around. And it's just, and Gary Sanchez, for all his struggles this year, has exhibited power. If they were playing a full major league season and you prorate his numbers, his batting average obviously is beyond atrocious, but he would have been on a pace for about 30 homers, about 75 RBIs. So those 2 numbers itself, really aren't bad, especially the 30 homers. But and at some point, you're hoping Gary Sanchez just breaks out of it. Keep in mind, this hasn't been a full season. So if it was a 162 game season and Gary Sanchez was really awful for about 60 games, you would probably keep playing him until you got to about 100 games before sitting him down. So we don't quite have the full season. They want to give him every opportunity. And, and he shows flashes way my reward, the faith Aaron Boone has in him. And So,
Well, again, Jack, I think you're playing to go to the World Series right now. I don't care about potential. I know who's got the hot hand. I know who's hitting the ball well. Gary Sanchez, to me, will be a good catcher one day. Today's not that day. You go with your hot hand, and again, I don't know why you're putting this guy out there hitting when he actually has no confidence and he's not hitting the ball. There's no reason when you got that catcher on the bench that's hitting heck out of the ball not to get him up there and at least give him a pinch hit swing at the ball. The odds are better that he would hit the ball. And you mentioned the Yankees striking out, what was it, 18 times? Am I saying it right? Last night, 18 strikeouts. And what that shows me is not only that Tampa Bay has a good pitcher, again, they're swinging for the fences. You got to put the bat on the ball, see what happens. Stop trying to
Stanton not to swing for the fences.
I'm going to tell most of the batters. I'm going to tell most of the batters out there that are striking out 2 out of 3 times to please put the bat on the ball and see what happens. Stop trying to jerk the ball out of the park all the time. We got power. Listen, we got power, Jack. We got power. Everybody knows we have power. I know we have power. But to me, when you're going up against a good pitcher, and I'm not talking about Stanton, and I'm not even talking about Judge, because you know they're legitimate 40 to plus home run hitters there. You have players on the team right now that got to put the bat on the ball and stop jerking for the fence. And you're swinging at pitches that are in the dirt. And you're not trying to put the bat on the ball, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, I can't agree that when you say, well, they're swinging for the fences. I don't think they've really changed their approach. But what drives me crazy about Major League batters is the amount of low pitches that they swing for. Sometimes you wonder if they just kept the bat on their shoulder and decided they weren't going to swing and made the pitcher throw 3 strikes, how often would the pitcher be getting the ball over the plate to strike him out? You know, they said that once about Mariano Rivera, that he's out of the strike zone. All the hitters have to do is not swing and they're going to get on base. I don't know how true that is, but it's really frustrating to see how many low pitches, you know, they get fooled on, they swing at, you know, and so on. So,
well, Jack, I was watching this thing before the season started, and they showed how they've changed their approach to batting. It's called the launch point, and they're batting, where they're actually going for the lower pitchers and trying to hit home runs, finding out how to hit home runs more. And what it has led to, in my opinion, and I think with the Yankees yesterday, is what it's led to is a lot more strikeouts. There's no bunting anymore. There's no aggressive hitting and running anymore. Everybody gets up there is trying to drive the ball to the fence. And I've seen the special on it, and this is what they all are teaching these young batters now. And there's nobody like DJ LeMahieu, who's just trying to go to right field, who's just trying to get the bat on the ball. He's got power. He just meets the ball, it goes out. And it's just a whole different way of batting right now that they're teaching these younger kids. And this is why I'm saying that maybe if they just choked up on the bat a little bit, put the bat on the ball, good things start to happen, and stop trying to get that launch point and popping it out of stadium or trying to drive it out of stadium every time you get up.
Well, on our debate show in the future, one of the topics we should maybe debate is whether or not the shift in baseball should be outlawed, just the way they outlawed the zone defense in basketball, because it definitely puts a lot of hitters at a disadvantage where you put the fielders, you know, to one side of the field and so on. And they're guys that just can't hit to the opposite field.
Yeah.
They just can't hit to the opposite field. And to change their styles, change their batting approach, that wouldn't work. I mean, about the only thing I could think of, you swing a fraction of a second later, so the ball goes to the opposite field, perhaps. When Derek Jeter was having some problems late on in his career, they tried to change his batting stance, and it was a disaster.
Yeah.
He went back to his old ways and was basic repetition. But with some of these pull hitters, wow, are they at a disadvantage? You're leaving one side of the field basically open for them.
Yeah.
You're putting the extra fielder, you know, to the side in which they hit in, and it's, you know, and it cuts down on their chances of getting hits. I mean, the great Ted Williams, he wasn't even sure what to do with the shift because they'd play it with him. he would go back and forth whether he should hit to the opposite field or just try to beat the shift by hitting through it. And if the great Ted Williams never had a concrete answer for that, who would?
Yeah. I mean, I look at, you mentioned Derek Jeter with his inside-out swing to put it to right field. They couldn't shift on him. Wade Boggs was another one that go to the opposite field all the time. Rod Carew would go to the opposite field all the time. These guys hit the ball. They know how to use their bat. Listen, I understand a lot of strength for people just pulling the ball. Listen, you're a professional baseball player, Jack. You're a professional hitter. You have to be able to at least bunt the ball to the left-hand side. If you're a lefty hitter, you should be able at least to bunt the ball down the third baseline and to beat it out for a single when there's nobody there.
Well, it drives me crazy with bunting, especially sacrificing. I've seen it so many times over the years. Guys will try to sacrifice bunt who don't know how to sacrifice bunt. They have no experience sacrifice bunting. And what's going to happen? They're going to foul 2 pitches off, and they'll have 2 strikes on them, and then the bunt sign will be off. And it's futile. Or if they do bunt, they'll pop the ball back up to the catcher. Yeah. Never make someone try something they don't know how to do. Don't play to the strategy, play to the capabilities of the player. And that's not usually done. I mean, and someone like Brett Gardner, you would want him to bunt a little more. Tyler Wade, fast Yankees, so on. But they have to feel comfortable doing it. And people forget one of the great Yankee bunters of all time. One of the great Yankee bunters of all time is actually Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle perfected the drag bunt. He would, especially when he was hitting lefty, he would just drag the ball down the first base line. And he got a lot of hits that way. And even Roy White, very heads-up player, in spring training, asked Mantle to work with him on drag bunting. So, bunting's great when the infield is playing back and so on. But for certain hitters in certain situations, teams don't mind the player bunting. If, let's say, they're 2 outs and Luke Voigt is up, the infield's going to play back and basically invite him to bunt, saying, if you want to bunt, if you could actually put it down, great, you're on first base. But chances are, even with the infield playing back, it's not an easy thing to do, to lay down a bunt, in the right spot.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. So anyway, I see in football we're gonna get to next. We're gonna go all the way back to Monday night and Sunday's games, since we've been off for a couple of things. The Chiefs beat the Pats 26-10 without Cam Newton. This game was really interesting because I felt that the Patriots had the Chiefs right where they wanted them. It's just that the offense, the quarterback for the Patriots, Hoyer, kept giving it back to the Chiefs. And they had a great game plan against Patrick Mahomes. Is Bill Belichick, a great defensive coordinator and a great head coach. Seems to know how to stop Pat Mahomes, at least for a half, where no other defensive coordinator has. It was a shame that Hoyer took a sack when they were down there. The interception that went through Edelman's hands gave the Chiefs the winning score. And really, the Chiefs' offense didn't look like the Chiefs' offense. Now, I know all good teams have bad games, but it really looked like, with the way Parcells didn't blitz them, went with the 3-man rush, kept everybody.
Belichick.
Belichick. Yeah, I love Parcells is on the mind.
Always
on my mind.
Distance.
Exactly. So Belichick was very smart, just rushing them 3 guys, and they did get the Mahomes. Terrible call on a sack where they stopped the play where he fumbled the ball, and the Patriots got it by the refs. And it looks like the Patriots, I think, if they had Cam Newton that game, Jack, would have beat the Chiefs.
I don't think so. But, listen, Cam Newton, former MVP, took Carolina to the Super Bowl. Possible Hall of Fame in the future, depending on what he does going forward. But let's not get carried away. The Patriots have altered their offense to Cam Newton, okay? Not the other way around. And they're going to have a dilemma next year, the Patriots. for the simple reason Cam Newton's going to be a free agent. And if his value, goes up again, which it has, I mean, keep in mind, no one wanted him until the Patriots picked him up, which is kind of bizarre. So he got a nice landing spot with the Patriots. They needed him, but they're not going to offer him a major long-term contract for next year. Not that he's going to get it anywhere else, but they're going to have to make a decision after this year that they want him to be the quarterback for the next couple of years, because their backup plan didn't work out. Brian Hoyer was starting over Jason Stidham. Stidham was the man being groomed for that position when Tom Brady left. Okay, he was supposed to be the starting quarterback. He got beat out in training camp by Cam Newton, but the telltale sign was they would start Brian Hoyer over Stidham. And Brian Hoyer had lost his last 10 regular season games. But Brian Hoyer knew the Patriots system because he'd been with them a while and so on. But they're going to have a real dilemma with the quarterback situation going forward. Now, you could say Belichick's always going to find a way, always find the right guy for the position. But if they wind up being 8-8 this year because their quarterback play was a little spotty, it's going to be a problem. Now, Cam Newton's going to come back. But is Cam Newton an elite quarterback at this point? I mean, he obviously is good, has great legs. You could win with him and so on. But it's the Patriot quarterback situation is going to be on everyone's mind next winter. Once again, do they re-sign Cam or not? And it's going to be a never-ending thing to me.
Well, to me, the way the receiving core is with the Patriots, Stidham, he's a Brady. He learned under Brady. He does the Brady kind of, the kind of system they had with Brady. But the receiving core, Jack, is not the same they had when Brady was at his best. They don't have that receiving core anymore. Cam will definitely be signed again by the Patriots next year. He's only 31 years old. The only reason why he didn't play was COVID, because of the COVID virus. He can run to get the receivers open. He doesn't have to worry about the timing patterns. He doesn't have to worry about all that stuff. And his threat to run holds them linebackers, which opens up the middle of the field for the Patriots. So there's no doubt in my mind that Cam Newton, if he plays anywhere close that he has the past two games, will be signed again by the Patriots.
Well,
I think Stidham is an experiment in progress. If they wanted Stidham to start, which a lot of talk was before the year, they would have never have signed Cam, because I think they know deep down that Cam is the type of quarterback they need for the system they have, for the receiving core they have right now. So Cam's only 31. If he's 80%, 90% of what he was when he was the MVP, he's a good quarterback, Jack. And that's all they need, is somebody that can keep the ball moving down the field.
Cam is a good quarterback, but keep in mind, his stock isn't going to soar based on 1 year. I mean, he couldn't even get a job for a while. So
Right.
Teams aren't going to be falling over themselves to sign Cam Newton. And most NFL teams, they have their quarterback of the future. You have to look at the rosters of the teams, and they're pretty well set at quarterback. And what happens if you have a scenario, and we don't know where Ron Rivera, Cam Newton's coach at Carolina, who now coaches the Washington Redskins, thinks of Cam Newton. When Ron Rivera got the job as the Washington football team's coach, force of habit, of course, the Washington football team's coach, he got it in large part by pledging to owner Daniel Snyder. He was going to give Dwayne Haskins a full shot. That was going to be his guy. So Dwayne Haskins is going to be playing all season as the number one. But if Dwayne Haskins isn't developing, isn't working out, Ron Rivera could see Daniel Snyder and say, I want Cam Newton back. We had a lot of success in Carolina. And maybe Washington offers Cam Newton a contract at the end of the year, which would be for significantly more money than the Patriots would be willing to pay. And maybe Cam Newton will think, yeah, I'd like to reunite with Ron Rivera, Washington, to start, and so on. So you can never tell. But I'll tell you, the way Bill Belichick thinks, and rightly so, he's not getting ahead of himself thinking of next year. Not at all. Okay?
That's the truth.
We're the ones in the media who tend to panic a little more. Bill Belichick has a cool head. He's in the now mode of working things out. And keep in mind, had Cam Newton executed that fourth down play against Seattle in the second game of the year and scored the touchdown, they would have won that game, and they would have been 3-0 under Cam Newton starting. And he absolutely would have been the talk of the league then.
Oh, no doubt. And you know, that was, you said Cam Newton to execute that. That was a bad play call. The Seattle Seahawks was ready for that. He already scored on it. The line didn't open nothing for him to get through. I think that was not the best call play that they could have done there. Maybe they should have done a jump pass or something, setting that up. But that's beside the point. So in the other game, Jack, we had the Packers beating the Falcons 30-16. Everybody talked about the Falcons at the end of the year, that they made that little run they had, that maybe they were ready to do something. And Rodgers is just playing some really great ball right now. He looks like he did a few years back. I mean, everybody forgets they went to the championship, even with not the greatest receiving crew in the league. But he looks really good. The Packers offense is really clicking. Their defense is playing really good, which nobody talks about. The running game is going. What do you think about the Packers? You think they got a shot this year, Jack?
Are you kidding me? They have a great chance. I mean, I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. I'm holding to that. But the Packers have a tremendous chance. People forget a few years back, Aaron Rodgers really altered Jason Garrett's career. The Cowboys were 13-3 on the season, and Jason Garrett was coach of the year. People forget that. And then they played the Packers in the playoffs, and Dak Prescott had a heck of a game for the Cowboys. That was the year he took over for Tony Romo. Aaron Rodgers was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like one of the great playoff games of all time. And Aaron Rodgers is just simply, an all-time great. If I told you Aaron Rodgers is one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time, you can't argue. If someone said to you, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time, you can disagree, but you can't say to them, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You can't make that argument like they're acting like ludicrous and making that remark, because it is a viable statement to say that. And with the one Super Bowl, if he had a couple of more Super Bowls, but I don't think we judge Super Bowls in itself. Terry Bradshaw has 4. We don't call him one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. Troy Aikman has 3. They're kind of in the back seat of great quarterbacks. So, right. But Aaron Rodgers, I mean, the things he does on the field are phenomenal. But, you mentioned the game, the Packers and the Falcons. I mean, it's the Dan Quinn watch.
Yeah.
The Falcons, I mean, they're 0-4 now. And since they blew that 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, It's been downhill. They had that game basically won. You talk about the probability statistic, which I hate. I hate it with a passion. The Falcons were over 99% sure to win that game at that point.
Yeah.
We're looking at probability. And Tom Brady, I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't think he's any better than Montana, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino. I mean, I think they're all the same level quarterbacks, quite honestly. But for that game in the Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons, the way Tom Brady brought the Patriots back, he was the greatest quarterback of all time for the period of about 45 minutes because they couldn't afford to make one mistake.
Yeah.
Amazing, what he did. But with the Falcons, 0-4 now, teams could turn it around, but...
Yeah, it's very tough, Jack. I mean, you all can go on late runs at the end of the season when nothing really matters and teams may not be playing their best or some other teams are having a lot of problems that you're matched up to. I mean, to me, when you coach and when I did, you look at the season in quarters, depending on how many games. In the first quarter, you're 0-4, and I know we didn't have a preseason this year, and I know that, but that goes for all teams. And what I think you see, and this is not the same with the Falcons, is that the teams that have been together longer, that have the more experience, that won really over the last 2 years, that have won a lot of games, they're the ones jumping out to the better records right now, not counting Minnesota. They're the ones that are jumping out. They've been together longer. The coaching staffs have been together longer, and they look crisper than the younger teams. The Falcons, who have been together, I mean, Matty Ice has been there, Quinn's been there. A lot of their players have been there for a while. They're not having the same results.
Matt Ryan, you mean, right?
Yeah, Matty Ice. That's why Matt Ice, yes.
Matty Ice.
Yeah, that's Matt Ice, they call him. They call him Matty Ice.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I call Matt Ryan. I mean,
yeah.
And not losing that Super Bowl game, what that meant for his career. Wow. Had the Falcons won, Matt Ryan's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer. Okay. But now, maybe he gets there, maybe he doesn't. But I don't like firing a coach mid-season. I never like it. The only time it makes sense, if the guy you replace him with, you're planning on him being there, long term after that. I hate this interim coach tag, so on. It doesn't have a good feel to it. Now, if you're hiring your new coach and you want him to come in during the year so he could learn the personnel, okay, moving forward, that makes sense. And look, the Houston Texans, after 4 games, fired Bill O'Brien. Now, Bill O'Brien was a lightning rod, trading DeAndre Hopkins. His ways seemed weird, unorthodox. But if you look at the cold stats before this year, Bill O'Brien took the Texans to the playoffs last year, and they won a game.
Yeah.
They won a game in the playoffs. They beat the Buffalo Bills. Then, of course, they got off to the big lead against Kansas City and lost that game. But no disgrace, you lose to the Chiefs. But as soon as he made that DeAndre Hopkins trade and didn't get good value in return for what DeAndre Hopkins was worth, he was automatically on the hot seat despite, having a good year last year.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And they
I do.
After 4 games, but what's the plan going forward? And then we never know what goes on behind the scenes because owners tend to get very close with star players, especially franchise quarterbacks. So we never know what, the relationship of Deshaun Watson could be with the owner, so on. And players sometimes, they're human, they vent a little bit, even if they don't mean to badmouth a coach. Their body language could say it all, or just them not defending the coach, just saying good things about the coach. I mean, that's enough to let people know they're not really that happy with the coach.
Oh, I agree. I agree with everything you said there. And being a GM and a coach is not that easy a job. I mean, Belichick makes it look pretty easy, but he makes a lot of things look pretty easy. So, so let's look at the locals from Sunday and the standings, Jack. We have the Bills are at the top of the AFC East. They're playing lights out. They had a rough game last week, but they're 4-0. The Pats are in second at 2-2. We know that they lost to the Chiefs. The Dolphins are at 1-3. They played Seattle pretty tough. I mean, they gave them a heck of a game. And the Jets at 0-4. And talking about somebody on a hot seat, I mean, I don't know if it's a good idea to fire coaches midseason, or especially when you're an organization that it's not just the coach. I think this goes way up the top of the organization. I think that there is problems there. They've hired 10 coaches in the last 20 years, where Pittsburgh's hired 2, I think. And I think there's something to be said about longevity of a coach getting an organization. If you look at all the great coaches in the league right now, they've been with their team quite a few years. I mean, you all Seattle, with Pittsburgh, with the Ravens. These are all good teams, and the coaches have been there to develop some kind of culture, to develop some kind of program there that makes it conducive to having other players come there in their draft picks and continue building. If you keep switching coaches all the time, you're always rebuilding. So there's something to be said for that. But I don't know in Gase's case, Jack. I don't know what to do with this guy. He seems to have lost the team, is what I
You don't know what the ownership is thinking. And the media really plays such a big part in getting coaches fired, coaches, managers, so on. A very big part, because all of a sudden they decide someone is on the hot seat. They might have no evidence at all. They're basing it on logic. Oh, well, they lost their first 3-4 games of the season, so the coach must be on the hot seat because they're underachieving. And they keep mentioning the possibility of a coach being fired. And it stays. And the owners hear this. And the owners have a certain fatigue. They get tired of hearing the negativity. I mean, I don't know what the Johnsons think of Adam Gase. Adam Gase says he has a great relationship with ownership and so on, how much he welcomes communicating with them. What else is he supposed to say?
Right.
I mean, so on. And you don't know what ownership really thinks. I mean, they might feel, well, this is our guy. We're sticking with him all the way. Maybe they've told him on the side, you're our guy. We're sticking with you. Don't listen to that. They're being supportive. But like we said a little while ago, firing a manager, a coach in season, I mean, nothing is gained by that.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. But at the end of the season, an evaluation has to be made because the Jets might very well win a few games. They have 12 games left. They might very well go 6-6, 7-5 the rest of the year. And you look at that as saying, oh, the team got straightened out. They're ready to take off next year. That's what we thought last year.
Right.
The Jets went 6-2.
Right.
In the last half of the season. So you would think logic tells you they're going to keep that momentum going, that they're at least going to have a winning season at 9-7. That's what you'd think on the surface, and it doesn't work that way. I think, the coach is an issue that they're going to have to address. But who else is out there, really, when you think of it? I mean, who else are you going to hire? You're basically going to be hiring someone else's assistant and so on. And that's like a crapshoot. You're going to have an interview with someone, and you don't know what their pedigree really is. Look at all of Bill Belichick's assistants, how they've done with other teams. They haven't been successful.
Right.
They just haven't. But you think, oh, I'm getting someone who does it the Patriot way, and it's going to wear off on my team. And it just historically hasn't happened with New England assistants. Matt Patricia with the Lions, they haven't been successful, him going there. Joe Judge is on his honeymoon period, but they're 0-4. It's too early to evaluate him. I mean, his first year's a gimme, but there have been, Romeo Crennel in the past. He wasn't really a successful head coach. Charlie Weiss wasn't, on and on and on. So we see all these guys who come from great programs. Now, there was an exception. You mentioned Bill Parcells accidentally before. He's always on your mind. The assistants from the Giants, I'll tell you, that says a lot for Bill Parcells' legacy, okay?
Definitely.
Bill Belichick, Sean Payton, Tom Coughlin, okay? And these great assistants don't know, but a lot of times they don't pan out. Steve Spagnuolo. He was one who didn't quite pan out as a truly successful, head coach. So that you just don't know what's out there.
Well, some people, Jack, are made to be coordinators, and it's very hard to be a winning coach, head coach in the NFL. As we know, that's why the teams hold on to the good ones.
Well,
it's a lot easier to concentrate on one area of a team than it is all aspects of the team, of course, and plus all the management that comes along with being a head coach. There's a lot of things that go on. So go ahead.
Let me mention Bill Arnsparger. He was Don Shula's defensive coordinator for the unbeaten Miami Dolphin teams, for the other really good Miami Dolphin teams. So the Giants sign him, okay? Right. And he just didn't work out as Giant head coach.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's so many examples of that. And you mentioned the Giants, so let's get the NFC East standings, and some people are calling them the NFC least right now. The Eagles, they're in first place at 1-2-1. They beat the the 49ers last game. Washington and Dallas are tied in second at 1-3. And the Giants are at the bottom at 0-4. And the Giants offense, they have only scored, Jack, 47 points in 4 games. Their defense has only given up 96. It's one of the tops in the league. But their offense is not clicking right now at all, Jack.
You know, Mac, you kind of set me straight just now. You jolted me into something I didn't think about. And my mindset was the Giants are 0-4. This is a honeymoon year for Joe Judge. It doesn't matter how many games they win, don't. You're developing, you're building something. They're just a game and a half out of first place with an 0-4 record.
Yes, they are.
And this is a division, as crazy as it seems, where 7-9 can conceivably, win the division.
It's happened before.
If the Giants go 7-5 the rest of the year, which is always a possibility, they could conceivably win the division. As crazy as it seems, the Eagles play the tie 6-9-1, could win it for them. I mean, it's insane.
I mean, it's happened before, Jack. The Seahawks did it and ended up going to the Super Bowl. So,
they didn't go to the Super Bowl. They're 7-9. They beat the Chicago Bears in a playoff game.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And but I mean, they did win that one playoff game after they won 7-9. A lot of people think that maybe there should be, like they have in the NBA or whatever, where you just list the teams and you get the best records. A lot of people think if you win a division, you should be able to go to the playoffs. I think that will always be some kind of controversy. But the Bills right now, Jack, there's 6 undefeated teams, and the Bills are one of them. And Josh Allen is playing a lot better than he did. I think Diggs getting there helped him out a little bit on offense, giving him a real legitimate downfield threat. Their defense had a little hiccup last week, but it happens. The Bills' defense is still one of the best in the league. It seems like they got something together, and maybe they make a run. I mean, we talk about the Chiefs. We talk about the Ravens.
Teams have to make a run at the Bills.
Have
to make a run at anyone. The improvement of Josh Allen, the quarterback, has been absolutely dramatic.
Yeah.
Dramatic. And it's a funny thing about the draft that he was in. You had a big 4 quarterbacks in the draft. You had Baker Mayfield, you had Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and ironically, Lamar Jackson was in the back seat up in the rear. So when the Jets moved up, they were willing to take any of the young quarterbacks. Later, they claimed Darnold was the guy they wanted all along. Fine. But can you imagine the Jets stood pat at 6th overall instead of trading with Indianapolis to move up to number 3 overall? And Josh Allen was the guy there, and Sam Darnold was off the board, and the Jets just stayed pat. They would have had Josh Allen and their 3 second-round draft choices they traded away, which would have filled up positions. And amazing. And look at the Ravens. I mean, Lamar Jackson just fell into their lap. They had to pick a ways down. I mean, he went, a little late in the first round.
Right? I mean, I think Jack, that Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills have had a good defense for the last few years. The Jets, not so much. So I don't know if you can compare the Jets getting Josh Allen, whether it would have been better than Darnold or not. I don't know. I do know that Darnold has done well when he has played this year, not so much, but I think that's more of a team thing. But what I like about the Bills is what I mean is the Bills making a run at it. I mean, they're making a run at the Ravens, making a run at the Chiefs, making a run at the Steelers, who look good. The Browns are coming on now. I think that Buffalo, they don't talk about Buffalo right now as a serious championship contender. In fact, I don't hear a mention of them at all. They're all talking about the Chiefs and the Ravens. I really believe that Buffalo can give the Chiefs and the Ravens all they can handle.
Well, right now, if I had to do my own power rankings, Buffalo would be second in the AFC behind Kansas City. I would put them slightly ahead of the Ravens, actually, because Buffalo's defense, I mean, they're really, really gelling. They have one of the best defenses in the league. It's still the Ravens also. And when you look at Josh Allen's development and Obviously, Lamar Jackson was last year's MVP. But in the quarterback position, both teams are basically now on a par. And with the addition, a Diggs, so on, with Buffalo, a wide receiver, it's it's really interesting that you have a big three there, but a Kansas City, Buffalo, the Ravens, but Kansas City's better than the Ravens if push comes to shove, as they proved in the Monday night game. But Buffalo is the one team that can give the Chiefs a serious argument to prevent them from going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I look, we don't want to leave the Tennessee Titans out of it or the Steelers. I mean, they're both playing great ball. I think Pittsburgh.
Are they playing ball at all?
Well, I mean, Tennessee's is scheduled to play this week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Tennessee.
But they're 3-0. I mean, they got a great running game, a good defense, and their passer is better than average. So I mean, they have a shot. I just know that nobody in the news media that I've heard so far in sports media has put Buffalo up on that plane with the Chiefs and the Ravens, and I think they're making a mistake. I think Buffalo really has a chance this year to raise a little cane and maybe get to the Super Bowl. They keep playing this way. So.
Well, they're doing it as the year goes along. More and more people are going to notice Buffalo. I don't have their schedule in front of me, but it's interesting whether they have a certain high-profile game, and still. They still got to go by New England. Everything still has to go through New England only because of New England's past. Okay. Yeah. Being in the playoffs every year and so on. And so who knows? Maybe Buffalo plays New England and Bill Belichick finds a way to shut Buffalo down.
Yeah, there's always that chance.
Conclude that Buffalo's a good team, but not quite ready to take the next step. But this is going to be the year. Buffalo is going to win the division, and they're going to make a serious run in the playoffs. I think when all's said and done, the Chiefs have a mini dynasty going. I think they'll win the Super Bowl 2 of the next 3 years, which will give them 3 out of 4. That's just, an off-base opinion. But I think the Chiefs will win it this year when all's said and done. The offense is so high-powered. And Patrick Mahomes, along with Aaron Rodgers, I think have separated themselves as the 2 best quarterbacks in the league.
So far this year, I definitely agree with that, Jack. And, well, I mean, we can't forget about Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson you could put in the same class as them, too.
You could put, but he's a little step behind. I mean, and this is no put down to Russell Wilson. I mean, if you were going to ask 20 head coaches, for example, sit them all down, have them write a name on a piece of paper, put Russell Wilson's name next to Aaron Rodgers and next to Patrick Mahomes, who would you pick?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, between Rodgers and Mahomes, chances are 12 will pick Mahomes, 8 will pick Rodgers. But Rodgers would probably get 19 votes to 1 over Wilson, and the same with Mahomes.
I don't know about that, Jack. I mean, I'm not sure it would be that high of a percentage.
Well, what about you?
I think right now Russell Wilson is in the talk for MVP of the year.
Who would you pick as your quarterback?
If I had a last drive to win a Super Bowl out of those 3, believe it or not, I'd take Rodgers, and that would be who I would take.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm talking about Wilson matching him up against Patrick Mahomes. You're starting a season as your quarterback.
Right.
You're going to play the whole year. Who would you take, Mahomes or Wilson?
I would take, this is just my opinion, Jack, because of the experience. I would take because of the experience and what he's done with less threats maybe than Mahomes.
Mahomes is a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
I would take Wilson. You asked me my opinion. I would take Wilson. You're asking me, I'd give you my opinion. I would take Wilson.
Hey, listen, Russell Wilson's a Hall of Famer. He's kind of been underappreciated over the years. I mean, in his longevity and listen, when Russell Wilson, to me, let's call him the 3rd best quarterback in the league behind Mahomes and Rodgers, in my opinion. Now, if you want to know how good Russell Wilson is, when Seattle played the Cowboys, and they each had to go down the field, each team. Dak Prescott wasn't stretching the field. He was dinking and dunking, getting his team down. Russell Wilson was stretching the field, and that showed me the difference in the level of play. Zach Prescott, an excellent quarterback, a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Agree.
But when you truly talk about a very short list of elite quarterbacks, let's say 3 guys, 4 guys, I mean, Russell Wilson is in that. You shortlist them as an elite, great quarterback.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys, a lot of the other guys, I should say, you could list as very good quarterbacks. That's where the difference lies. And
yeah. I think to put Brady and Breeze in that at this time in this year, not that Brady played his
no, not at this point.
Right, he played. I mean, he played unbelievable last game. I mean, he went crazy.
Yeah, right now you list him as a very good quarterback.
Right. I agree with that.
Okay, and then you surround him with the right players. He'll get it done. He's capable, of taking a team, really far, and which he's doing so far in the last 3 games.
I definitely agree with that, Jack. So NBA, let's hit that real quick. After that, we're going to get the Jack start of the day. But let's hit the NBA really quick. The Lakers, they beat the Heat again, 102-86. LA is 3-1 in the series. LeBron had 28 points, 8 assists, and 12 rebounds. Anthony Davis had 22 points, 4 assists, and 9 rebounds. Caldwell Pope chipped in with 15. Danny Green put another 10 up for the Lakers. For the Heat, Jimmy Butler led the way with 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists to 2 guards. Hero and Robinson combined for 38 points in the losing effort. The 2 things I take away from last night's game is, one, the Lakers are just too big right now with the center not playing for the Heat. They're just too big right now for the Miami Heat. I mean, not only are they big, they're athletic. Their bigs are very athletic too. And 2, LeBron is going to be the MVP for the finals, Jack.
No, well, it's between him and Anthony Davis. It's very much up in the air. I have a feeling Anthony Davis is going to win it when all's said and done. But, we'll see. And last game, Game 3, when Jimmy Butler carried the Heat to victory, that was one of the more heroic performances I ever saw. It was reminiscent of when Allen Iverson with the 76ers, they beat the LA Lakers in Game 1 of the finals, and the Laker team was so superior to that 76ers team. How on earth the Sixers could win a game against a team that much better, I could never figure out. And Jimmy Butler did the same in Game 3. But when push comes to shove, okay, you take Butler and Adebayo, that's the big 2 in Miami, and you put them against LeBron and Anthony Davis, their big 2. You can beat them for a given day, as Butler showed. But you take off LeBron and Anthony Davis and get them focused, and the 2 teams meet head on. I mean, the Lakers are better, but listen, there was a point in the game yesterday when Davis crashed into someone on his own team and he went down and it looked like he hurt his leg. Now, can you imagine Davis was injured and had to all of a sudden miss the rest of the series? So this 3-1 lead against the Lakers over Miami would no longer be safe. Well, they might not have won the game had Davis went out. But let's say someone gets hurt early in Game 5 for the Lakers, one of their big 2, I should say, Davis or LeBron. All of a sudden the landscape changes. So it's advisable you get these series over as soon as you can. But one thing about Miami, they're scrappy. They're not going to give up.
Yeah.
They're just not going to give up in Game 5. Everyone is all set for the coronation of the Lakers. And like I said the other day, they're going to, once they get the 3 wins, people are going to start looking who's the MVP of the Lakers, and it's just not over yet. But the Lakers are ultimately going to win. They probably are going to win Game 5. But Miami's going to lay it all on the line. I mean, and who's going to be the MVP? Wow. How is LeBron and Anthony Davis going to feel about it? LeBron wants that MVP award. He wants to be the first in history to win it with 3 different teams. LeBron's going to have an extra jump to his step. He's going to be even driving harder to the basket than normal. He's going to want the type of performance that's going to make it hard for them to give it to Anthony Davis. With that said, it seems like he likes Anthony Davis an awful lot as a teammate and as a person. And he would be very happy for Anthony Davis if Anthony Davis won the award. What's more interesting is Anthony Davis going to defer a little more to LeBron, figuring, I want to help this guy make history. Anthony Davis has never won that award. Okay?
Yeah.
So here we are. We're talking about who's going to be MVP more than who's going to win the series. But Miami's not thinking of that way. And it's going to be a tough game 5. It's not going to be a Laker blowout.
I don't, Jack, I think during the game, I don't think they're thinking about when they're playing the game who they think should have the MVP or will somebody step back. And I really don't believe that they're thinking that during the game. I think that they're all going to play as hard as they can and do whatever they got to do to win. Maybe in reflection after a game or before a game, they might think about it. And even before the game, Jack, I think they're worried about how to win the ball game. I think LeBron right now, the reason why I said he'd be MVP right now is because not just because of his scoring ability, but the assists. He out-rebounded Davis last night. He runs the floor out there. He runs the team, and he still can outscore almost anybody on the floor when he chooses to. But he's this year and during this final series, I know Davis is playing great. He could be MVP, but I think overall with LeBron, with his defense, with his rebounding, with assists, and that's why I'm saying that LeBron will probably win the MVP.
No one talks about the contribution of the old war horses. Rondo, he's there looking like he's going to get yet another championship. He was a star player.
Yeah.
He's accepted being a role player with the Lakers. And Dwight Howard. Listen, Dwight Howard's a little bit of a story. Hardly immature guy, let's face it. Wore out his welcome in a lot of places. But some people feel he's a Hall of Fame in the future. I don't see it. Don't tell me what his stats are. I don't want to hear about it. But Dwight Howard's going to get it looks like he's going to get his first NBA championship. And he's accepted his role as a backup. And he's been a highly effective rebounder and so on. And it's going to be interesting at the end of the year if the Lakers do wrap up the championship. Dwight Howard's a free agent. Is he going to go anywhere else? Are the Lakers going to find a way to keep him? Even though he's done all he's been asked to do, he's worn out his welcome in other places. But you kind of wonder, is another team out there going to sign Dwight Howard and think to themselves, well, Dwight Howard could be a really good center for us and we can start him. Because Dwight Howard in this position with the Lakers as a backup, he defers to LeBron and Anthony Davis.
Sure.
The Lakers signed Dwight Howard with basically with a no tolerance clause. They weren't going to put up with anything at all. If he was going to give them any problem, they were going to cut him. Because here's what the Lakers before with Kobe Bryant, and he was kind of difficult to get along with. Okay, he drove Kobe crazy at times. So Dwight Howard kind of towed the party line, okay? And he's going to be rewarded, it seems, with an NBA championship.
Yeah.
But what comes of him going forward? Would he be happy to stay in this role with the Lakers, or would he get a good contract elsewhere, to start for a team? And will he become a prima donna again if he does?
Well, I don't think I really don't believe that he has what it takes to be a starting center in the league anymore, Jack. But there are a lot of role players that go on different teams and win championships and really contribute. I mean, Robert Horry is one that comes first when it comes to mind. I mean, he was with a lot of different championship teams, but boy, was he something else. There's a few players that have done this in history that come in and later in their careers and make a significant contribution to the team and maybe hit that big shot.
It depends the coach and the culture. With Robert Horry, with being with Houston under Rudy Tomjanovich, Hakeem Olajuwon, and then going, with Pops, Greg Popovich at San Antonio. Sometimes you're on this certain culture, you have to draw the line. I was reading a book, just giving an example with baseball with Darryl Strawberry about the 1986 New York Mets. According to what I read in the book by Jeff Pearlman, he was an awful guy. the teammates. He was moody, sullen, a troublemaker, Darryl Strawberry. This was when he was on the 1986 Mets championship team. Well, in the 1990s, the later part of the 90s, when his career was on the downside and George Steinbrenner saved him and he came to the Yankees, Darryl Strawberry, had a rebirth to his career and was really contributed very nicely to the Yankees. But he would tote the party line. He wasn't any trouble at all. It was the Yankee culture. Under Joe Torre, under Derek Jeter, he had to act a certain way. And that's how it is with certain players. They could be a star somewhere, but then they have to go somewhere else and they have to toe the line. Like Carmelo Anthony. When he was a star, with the Knicks, you could argue he was a little bit of a prima donna. Perhaps maybe that's a little unfair. He seemed to be a little jealous of Jeremy Lin's success when Lin came on rather than being more supportive. But now that he went to Portland, he was just lucky to have a job and he had a rebirth to his career as well. Kudos to him. And now Carmelo Anthony's a free agent. Who knows where he's going to wind up. But wherever he does, he can't be put in a position of leadership as far as being a star player, as far as being the guy.
Yeah.
Because, you have to kind of accept your role at a certain part of your career. Some guys can do it permanently. Some guys do it tentatively with the idea it's going to jumpstart them into stardom again, and that's wrong.
Definitely 100% agree with that. So, Jack, now that we covered the NBA and the finals and a little bit of other stuff along with that, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts of the day are today, Jack.
My thoughts of the day are hockey doesn't get it. The NHL doesn't get it. Listen, most people who are sport fans, it interchanges. They're baseball fans, are football fans, and basketball fans. Baseball fans are not. Football fans, NBA fans, for the most part, they're not hockey fans. The hockey fans are separate breed. Why? Because the NHL doesn't get it. One of the highlight days of the NHL season should be the NHL draft. Why not try to make it as big as the NFL draft or the NBA draft? People look forward to that for months. So what does the NHL do? What do? They have their draft last night, opposite the NBA playoffs, opposite the Major League playoffs. What are they doing? No one besides hardcore hockey fans are even noticing the NHL draft is going on. I mean, the New York Rangers, the highest profile city in the world, are picking number one. That should be the talk of the day. We should be talking about the Rangers pick as much as we're talking about the Yankees today, the Yankee game, even more so. I mean, imagine it was the NFL draft last night. We would have been talking about that over and over. So the Rangers draft an 18-year-old winger, Alex Lafreniere. No one cares, but worse than that, no one knows besides the hardcore hockey fan. So when we talk about the major sports, and hockey is left out, don't blame other people for leaving hockey out. Hockey has to blame itself. It just doesn't get it. And last night's draft is a perfect example. Hold the darn draft. A night where it could be the centerpiece. Focus around it. Especially you had the New York Rangers, one of the storied franchises in sports history, picking number one. That should have been headline news. Instead, it's more like an afterthought. Here we are, Mac. Well past the halfway point of our show. We should be leading off with big news like that if hockey got it right. Instead, it's just a thought of the day, and then we move on.
Yeah, I do agree with a lot of what you said there. There is a reason why certain sports are more popular than others. Now, hockey has a disadvantage because it's a northern region sport. They're really not playing the hockey down south, really, Jack. I mean, it's a northern sport. It has its very
Nashville, Tennessee.
It really has. It really has a very strong base that has some very loyal fans. A lot of people even compare it right now to boxing, where boxing has a strong loyal following. The only difference with boxing when they try to compare it to it is baseball, football, hockey, and other sports fans have their favorite fighter. So they will follow that sport as opposed to hockey. I think also, though, Jack, I also have to fault ESPN and some of the other sports media to go along with what you're saying. I think that they do not have hockey even on their ticker. And I understand that you want to go with the ratings, but let me tell you, the WNBA has no ratings compared to hockey. And they do put that on their ticker. They do talk about the WNBA as much as they do hockey, and it's nothing to do with female versus male athletes. I'm just giving you the true numbers that the ratings of hockey is a lot higher than the ratings in the WNBA, and for them not to have them on their ticker besides the playoffs, which they do somewhat, to me is very wrong. If you're a sports network, you should be providing at least as much attention as you do some other sports that have lower ratings. I think hockey is a great sport. I really enjoy watching it, especially the playoffs, and I really got back into it this year. The Whalers left me in Connecticut, so I kind of have left hockey for a while, but this year I turned back to it because I'm doing the sports show. It's a very exciting game, Jack. It's a very hard game to play. I wouldn't to go down, at 50 miles, 60 miles an hour on skates and control a puck or to get hit into the boards. It's an unbelievable sport. It's an unbelievable team sport. It's not the greatest viewing sport there is. I mean,
in person it is. It's great to watch live.
Yes. It's hard, difficult for some people to follow it on TV unless you are a big hockey fan. But I believe there's a lot more that hockey could do to improve the sport's optics and to improve the way that it's covered. And what you said about the draft, Jack, I agree 100% with that. They should
and
be
what's
put.
the rush, Mac? The hockey season just ended. Wait for the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball playoffs to end, and you plan it on a night that'll be a little downtime, and you build towards the playoffs. You build towards the draft. That's what the NBA and NFL does. They build for the draft. And as far as blaming ESPN, if ESPN knew the draft was taking place in, let's say, 2-3 months, they would be building towards it because they need to fill up their news too.
Right, I agree. I do.
It's called filling up programming, filling in gaps of things that are interesting. And even the sports, the major sports, let's put hockey on the side with that, baseball, football, basketball. There comes times during the year where we're not that interested in it for a week or two because there's downtime. Okay, right. Like you mentioned the Mets before, who we might talk about before this show's over. It's your call. Right now, the Mets have a little bit of downtime. Even Met fans aren't talking about what's going to be with the Mets. They'll wait. Maybe a week from now, they'll talk more, or whenever the ownership thing gets confirmed.
That's what I think, yeah.
And the World Series is over, and then they're free agents to be signed. Then it becomes really hot for everyone again. But with hockey, they just missed a golden opportunity because the draft, especially with the Rangers picking number 1, should have been prominent. And it also would have given them a chance with this Alexis Lafreniere to exhibit a star to the public. Put him first and forefront. This is our number 1 pick. Let everyone know who he is and so on. But the draft took place just very quietly. Only the hardcore hockey fans were really interested in it. Get the general sports fan who likes hockey but isn't a hockey fan, get him involved, and they didn't do it. And I don't blame ESPN. I don't blame the networks because there's so much going on, so many storylines with the different baseball games going on in the Major League playoffs, the NBA finals, that who cared? I mean, to put the draft on in that night.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
I blame them.
I agree with you in this case, Jack. I agree with you in this case. I'm talking about during the year when the hockey playoffs are going, or during the year when it's getting near the end of the year. ESPN really don't even cover it like they do the other sports, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about going up against the NBA Finals, against the division series down to baseball. I think was a foolish move for them to make. I really do, but I do believe that they do not get coverage the way other sports do that are even less popular.
I agree with that to a large extent. So what should the NHL do about it? They have to market their product better. And the draft is one of the best ways to market your product. Look at the NFL draft. That is one of the best ways that they market the league. Through the draft, people are talking about the NFL draft even a year in advance who's going to be drafted next year. They're talking about the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Who's going to be number one to get him? They're not talking. No one talked about Alexis Lafreniere, who's going to get him at number one during the year. The NBA draft, we're already talking like LaMelo Ball. Where's he going to go to, for example? It's on our radar, and it's a while off before they actually draft. Okay? But hockey, no one talked about that. I mean, the draft is quiet. The draft is a minor league event. And if you're going to make your draft a minor league event, it doesn't elevate the rest of the sport. Now, baseball doesn't make their draft a whole big thing, but baseball is such a major sport, it doesn't have to, but hockey absolutely does.
Well, and you got to consider into the fact too that, Jack, that when they draft the baseball players, they disappeared to the minors for so many years anyway. So even though the draft is talked about, some of those guys we never see come up to the major leagues, and some of them, I mean, they're kept down there just because of contracts.
So you make an outstanding point, Matt. Outstanding.
Yeah.
The major league draft isn't as popular, and it shouldn't be, as basketball and football, because the players drafted in baseball don't make an immediate contribution. They're sent to the minors. They're sent for seasoning. They're not going to be brought up for 2, 3, 4 years, if at all.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the NBA and the NFL, you expect an immediate impact.
Yeah, and you do in hockey too. So that's what I agree with you 100%, Jack, that, when you're talking about a player like this going on to the Rangers, and he may start this year, he probably will start this upcoming year in some games, or at least be on the second line. I mean, this is a big deal, and it should be covered or put in a position to be covered a lot more. So I agree with you 100% there.
Well, let's see when the season begins whether he's going to be focused, and let's see, are the Rangers going to market him, how they are. The only way you can market him if he plays a lot and makes an impact this first year. Then you can market him. What you need sometimes are personalities for teams. It just takes one personality to be very popular, to be in the papers a lot, or I should say the internet, over the news and so on.
Right.
And one player could sometimes carry a franchise, with them, and make the sport more popular, get young people going to the event, and so on. And that's a key, your fan base with young people. If a certain player gets a following with young people who are there all the time, it picks up, and the whole team, kind of follows, as far as the team being something for the public, to really embrace.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I agree with your point 100%. I think that the hockey, though, Jack, even with the draft of the hockey, it's a team sport. It's not like the NBA where that one player can change the total scope of the team. I mean, it's a very individual sport. But again, back to what your original point is, your original thought. I agree with you 100%. I think that hockey did itself no favors by having the draft during the championship series and the American League Division Series. I did want to touch on the Mets real quick. We didn't have Rich Coutinho. His uncle passed away, and he's helping his aunt out. I just think that and what I want to say about the Mets, I think they did have a good hitting team. I think there's a future there for them at their position players. I think that the ownership change to Cohen is gonna get them in a better position to get some free agents next year, maybe a catcher, maybe another person in the outfield. But they definitely need the pitching help next year. I think there's great hope for them next year, Jack. I hope they keep on Rojas. I know the whole front office will probably be gone when Cohen gets in there. I hope they give Rojas another shot at it, a full season. And I think even though the Mets had a very disappointing season this year, I really believe that they'll be up there next year and competing again as long as they pick up another starter.
Thought that no one talks about. The suspensions of A.J. Hinch and Alex Cora are ending. The one-year suspensions for the sign-stealing scandal, that both guys were, part of with Hinch as the Astro manager, and Cora, perhaps, his involvement wasn't as great, but nevertheless, they were suspended a year. Now they're eligible to come back. There's talk about them being interviewed by the Detroit Tigers for that position. There's a reasonable chance one, if not both, are going to be managing next season.
Yeah.
Now, where does that leave Carlos Beltran? Now, I'm sorry about Rojas. Rojas was basically gifted the job. No one owes him anything at all. Okay, he might be a very nice man. He might be a good baseball man, but as a manager, they didn't get it done. The Mets were awful last year. Even with the expanded playoffs, they didn't make it. So he has done absolutely nothing to merit coming back. Absolutely nothing, okay? And if they want to bring him back as manager, okay, but I don't want to hear, he deserves another shot. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't, okay? But Carlos Beltran, who's had a great career in baseball, highly respected by everybody, but just somehow fouled up with this Astro scandal. If everyone else is allowed to come back, if the players didn't get suspended, they're allowed to play. If Hinch and Cora are allowed to come back to manage, why not Beltran with the Mets? The Mets had to let him go after they hired him. The only reason Rojas got the job because the Mets felt they had to let Beltran go because of the scandal that went on, and they didn't want to get the negative feedback that was sure to accompany keeping Beltran as manager. So they rushed into getting Rojas as their manager. They owe him nothing. Why not? I'm just asking, thinking out loud here. Why not bring Beltran back as manager of the Mets? Okay. And if you look at his career compared to Rojas's, tell me who's more deserving to be that manager. Should Beltran get a shot?
Well, I what I'm looking at, Jack, is that is Rojas. Okay, Rojas did come in as the coach in the minor leagues, but right now we're gonna get to Mike Brombley. He has decided to come on, and we invited him on. It's great to have him. So the former Minnesota Twins pitcher, relief pitcher, he had a great 11-year career, and we're going to have him on coming up right now and ask him some questions about his career, his the Major League Baseball division races maybe, and we'll bring him on right now. So how you doing today, Mike? Great to have you.
I'm doing great. Good to see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. I'm Mac. This is Jack. He's the co-host for the show, and we're glad to have Mike, who comes from the same state I do, as a matter of fact, believe it or not, and one of the best relief pitchers for the Twins.
I got to say something. I'm a bit in awe right now, Mike. I was a past president of the Boxing Writers Association of America. I presented awards to the greatest fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Vladimir Klitschko, Evander Holyfield. This is my first time actually speaking to a major league pitcher.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's the first time we couldn't find anybody better, so you got to talk to me.
No, 11-year career. You guys have had an 11-year career, so I'm in the
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Mike, I want to get into it. Mike pitched from 1992 to 2002. He pitched for the Minnesota Twins, the Baltimore Orioles, the LA Dodgers. He started with the Twins and ended with the Twins. And he was a Rookie of the Year award winner in 1992 when he played with Kirby Puckett, Dave Winfield, Rick Argulera, and became one of the most prominent relief pitchers in the league. Now, he's owner and manager, partners of Tromley Associates. So check that out when you get a shot, and check out what he's doing there with his firm. I don't think, Mike, that people realize how hard it is to be a Major League Baseball pitcher. I mean, what it takes to go through, through the whole history to come through the minors. They think, if you can throw 98 miles an hour and maybe have a curveball, that you could have a shot at that. Can you describe to the viewers at home how hard it is to become a Major League Baseball pitcher?
Well, you hit the nail on the head right there. And I was a perfect example of a guy who didn't have a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and I didn't really have the wow factor. I went to Duke University in the late 80s, and we weren't very good. I was a guy, and lucky for Greg Maddux was around. I was a guy that kind of threw like Greg Maddux. I could spot the ball and had some pretty good breaking stuff, but I didn't have that wow thing. I didn't have the 98-mile-an-hour fastball that said, hey, listen, this kid's going to be drafted in the first round. He'll be around for a long time. I really, ignorance is bliss. I look back now and say, geez, how did it happen? And interesting story. I just talked to a young kid who's really went through some injuries in the minor leagues, and he's trying to get himself back. And I told him, don't worry about the minor leagues. Don't worry about, oh my God, how am I ever going to make it from A ball to AA to AAA to the big leagues? And how am I going to stay there? I said, listen, just worry about yourself. And I look back at my career, and really it's a little selfish thing to say, but you really have to just take care of yourself. And the old saying of, hey, if you pitch well, you'll get moved up. If you keep pitching well, it doesn't matter who's out there, someone's going to want you. And so that's really what you have to do. But it is, if you start looking at the numbers and the odds of making the big leagues and staying there and making a living at this, it's tough. It's very tough. And not only mentally, physically, the whole thing. If you have family, it's tough to be away. So the whole game is really tough to make it in that respect.
Mike, a lot of young pitchers with major league potential have a dilemma whether to go to college and pitch there, go right to the minor leagues. I mean, how difficult a decision is that to make?
I think that it's interesting. I think the better you are young, the harder the decision is, because obviously if somebody's going to throw a lot of money at you in the first or second round, it's going to be a tough thing to pass up. And it's money change. It's, life-changing money. So I think, I look at my situation when I went to Duke University. My mom basically said, listen, you're going to college. Not that I had a chance to be drafted in high school, maybe. But my mom said, listen, you're going to college. That's our deal. And if something happens later from college, that's fine. But it is a very difficult situation, especially with the money nowadays. Money is staggering, and it's tough to tell an 18-year-old kid, even their family, listen, they're offering millions of dollars. How do you pass that up? And I don't blame the kids.
Now, considering Duke is known as a basketball school, did you feel as an athlete a little bit like a second-class citizen when you went to Duke, the baseball team, compared to the basketball team?
Well, nothing against Duke, but yes, absolutely. We always every sport took second stage and third stage, fourth stage. And honestly, looking back at Duke University, I had great memories. My wife went to Duke. My oldest daughter went to Duke, and my big part is part of Duke. So yes, it was. And luckily, and I'm bashing Duke a little bit right here, but we weren't very good when I was there. And actually it turned out to be a good thing, because if I went to a Clemson or a bigger baseball school with a lot of better pitchers and more success, I was kind of more of a big fish in a not so good pond. So it worked out for me.
When you started in pitching, am I correct saying, Mike, that you started as a starting pitcher and then went to reliever? Is that how it went?
Yes, I was actually a starter in college, and when I was first drafted, I was a starter. But I kind of used the joke as I was kind of like a short starter. I could only go about 3 or 4 innings, and they pulled me out. So I was much better suited to reliever. And as my career, matured, and I became really a setup man. That's what I was, a setup man. I was like closed for 1 year in 1999, but I was really suited to be a setup man. And I like pitching every day. So yes, I started as a starter, but as I pitched and didn't pitch real well as a starter, I was kind of moved to that role.
Which one did you? So you enjoyed the relief role as a setup man better, not just based off the performance, Mike, but did you like that? You just said pitching every day. You like that a lot better.
Yes, I really did. I loved the fact of going to the ballpark every day, knowing that I had a chance to pitch, and especially when I was a setup man, and I was more of a veteran and one of the main guys in the bullpen. I knew if the game was going to be close on the line, I was probably going to get that call that day, and it was a great feeling every day.
How much does it take out of a relief pitcher to get up and warm up and then be told to sit down again, then getting up and warming up again? I mean, that and rain delays. I always like to play manager in my own head with my limited knowledge. Yeah, I'm a big baseball fan, but let's face it, us fans don't know the game the way the players do. But whenever there's a rain delay and it's, let's say it's a 45-minute delay approximately, to me, I can't see bringing a pitcher back to continue pitching. But nevertheless, that does happen.
Yeah, well, I was a different breed. I never threw really hard, as I mentioned before. So for me, it was easy. I was more of a touch pitcher, so I didn't really need to have my fastball at max. But I think nowadays with specialization into training, I think it's ridiculous, really ridiculously hard to get a guy hot and then sit him down and then do that again. So I would say in the good old days when I played, it was a little easier because guys were more field pitchers like the Maddox, myself, and guys like that. But now when the guys are throwing so hard, it's such maximum effort. I really think it's dangerous to get them hot then cold and hot and cold.
When you joined the Twins in 1992, they had just won the World Series, and you guys finished in second to the A's, and you had players like Kirby Puckett, Chuck Knobloch, Shane Mack. I mean, how great was that clubhouse at that time?
It was, looking back now, it was fabulous. I can't thank the Twins enough, and Tom Kelly and guys like Puckett and Herbeck and Aguilera and all those guys you mentioned, how good it was. And I look at it as saying that, like when you grow up in your own family, that's all you know. But that's how I grew up in baseball. That was my family, and I didn't know any better. I thought all the clubs did that. I thought every club had a great clubhouse like the Twins. Now, I kind of learned that it wasn't that way with other ball clubs. And that's why it was such a special place. And I give all the credit to Tom Kelly. He had tremendous respect for Puckett and Herbeck and Aguilera. And he kind of gave the reins to those guys and said, guys, this is your team. This is your clubhouse. And the guys just played it the right way. They ran the balls out hard. We never ran the balls out hard for Tom Kelly. We're running the balls out hard because if we didn't or did the right things, we're going to hear it from Puckett and Herbeck. They were our leaders. And it was really, really fortunate to have great leaders like that.
Mike, we hear about NFL teams making rookies do rookie things and so on. Did you have to go through that with the Twins, especially joining a championship team? Did you have to act like a rookie, carry other players' bags?
Absolutely. All the time. That's part of what the gig is. And honestly, I look back and it's fun stuff. And I think the more you respect it as a rookie, the less hard it is, the less they'll make you do. But if you kind of act like, you're a big star as a rookie and you're too loud, they're going to put you in your place. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's a big part of what's missing in the game today. Guys getting too big too soon.
I agree. Let's talk about the Minnesota Twins recently in the postseasons. They've lost 18 straight postseason games, Mike. How do you think that happens? Is it a curse, or is it just the matchups, or is it confidence?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say this, but if you look it up online, there is a rumor, and this is obviously just a rumor, so none of it's true. There's a curse of Mike Brombley.
No way.
Back in 2002, I gave up a grand slam to Jason Giambi in like the 13th inning to lose the game. It's for any of the Yankee fans, they'll remember me. They love me because I give up a lot of home runs to the Yankees. So, but there's a curse, and ever since then, they've said that the Twins can't win a playoff game, and they've lost all these games in a row. I think it's just coincidence. I think the Twins are great teams. I think these guys today are different than the guys 5 years ago and different 10 years ago. So it's just a coincidence. I don't think it's ever a different bunch of guys. It just didn't work out. So I don't put any stock in there's a curse or the Twins aren't as good. I think the Twins are a fabulous organization and a great team and hit a lot of homers too.
too.
See, you would know better than I would, but I'm not a believer in momentum in baseball because I've seen so many instances where teams are going into the playoffs, not playing well, and then it suddenly turns, and vice versa. Teams that are really playing well, they kind of just lose it, during the playoffs. I mean, no pitching staff, a start, was ever better than the Atlanta Brave ones, with Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox. They were built for the playoffs, yet they won only one World Series.
Yeah, I am a big fan of. I'm a big believer in momentum only because it's such a mental game. And I know as a pitcher, when I pitched good the day before, I had a good stretch the last couple outings. I would carry that over, and it's all confidence. As a player, it's all confidence. So I feel like as the team's rolling, they're hitting better. As you're pitching, they're going to score runs for you. It's just a better feeling out there. So I am a kind of a big fan of momentum. If teams are playing good, I put more stock in that. But on the different side of it, good pitching can stop good hitting anytime. So, like you mentioned, the Braves teams that they're tailor-made for the playoffs. I'm always a big fan of good defense and good pitching in the playoffs, and that'll win some championships.
What do you think, Mike, of the postseason this year? I mean, the season's changed, 60 games, more teams in the playoffs. It looks like the better teams still did advance. Who would you pick? I mean, besides the Dodgers, who do you think has a real good chance of winning the World Series this year?
Other than Dodgers, well, my son said something really interesting. And I haven't really paid a lot of attention to baseball this year. Listen, I think it's been something we needed, whether it's 60 games or 10 games or whatever. We needed something to watch. And I think the playoffs have been a nice alternative to what's going on out there. So my son said something interesting. He said, who he thinks is going to win the World Series? The Astros. And wouldn't that be an unbelievable story after what happened last year with stealing the signs? And then all of a sudden, all these guys had a bad year batting, and Altuve and all these guys, because they couldn't steal the signs. I think they're kind of rolling a little bit right now. I think there's a lot of teams with potential. And I would personally, my favorite, I want to see the Rays win.
How resentful would you have been if you were pitching and Houston did what they did? Because let's face it, players, coaches, managers, they're always trying to steal signs one way or the other. The question is whether the Astros took it a little too far. How resentful would you have been, towards Houston if you were still playing, and especially if they hit one of your pitches for a game-winning hit?
Yeah, well, keep in mind, I played in the steroid era, so if there's anybody to be mad at some stuff, it's going to be me. But, I've said this many times, and maybe I'm the minority saying this, but I have no problem with what the Astros did. Now, did they take it too far? Maybe. I mean, I think that the rules are set, written down, and you have to follow the rules. Did they break the rules? If they did, they should be punished. But we're talking about guys. The third base coach is giving these signs like this, right? We're trying to hide the signs. And if you can figure out my signs, that's not your fault. That's my fault. I got to get better signs. I think it should be written that stealing signs is frowned upon. If you're caught, in writing or whatever, you're going to get some sort of punishment. But for guys to lose their jobs, like Alex Cora, I disagree with. I think that's part of the game, stealing the signs. The third base coach is trying to hide them. If I figure them out, he better figure out a better way to give signs. So I'm really in the thought of, I kind of think that's part of the game, that you're giving the signs, I'm trying to steal them. And if I can steal them, you better figure out a better way to give them. But I do think that with technology, and I think they said with electronics, you can't use it. Well, there's ways to get around it. Or binoculars to electronics. There's different ways to look at, technology and electronics. I kind of like the fact that they stole signs. I think it's always been part of the game. So, but I'm the minority. A lot of people don't agree with me.
Yeah, Mike, they've been doing that since baseball started. We had a Yankee author on, and he was talking about the Yankees building a franchise, and they actually had a wire that ran all the way out to move one of the emblems back and forth for what pitches. It's been going on for years. Maybe the videos, maybe that did go a little far. I don't know. I think there's a lot of I don't think I agree with you that anybody should have been fired over that. I think maybe fined or whatever they had to do.
Right. I agree. Yeah. It's funny. The old Lou Holtz thing is, he said, hey, it's not my job to keep the score down. It's your job. Right. So if I got to figure out a better way to give my signs, maybe the catcher shouldn't be giving them between his legs. Maybe we should come up with a new way of, who knows? I think there's ways to hide it.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, what team were you a fan of growing up?
I was a Red Sox fan. Grew up in Massachusetts. Carlton Fisk, Jim Rice, all those guys.
To play against the Red Sox, knowing you didn't want them to be successful, did you still have any feelings for the Red Sox when you were major leaguer? Did you care at all whether they won or lost deep down?
Deep down, yes. To my buddies, absolutely not. But, going to Fenway Park for the first time, I remember my first time stepping in Fenway Park as a player. I was out in left field, getting balls off the left field wall, pretending I was Yastrzemski, trying to hold a guy to a single, trying to barehand it off the wall. Yes, I really love going to Boston. Watched so many games as a kid there that I just love going there. And it was just so special going there. And talking to other guys from around the country, whether they're Yankee fans or Dodger fans, and going back to the old stadium they went as kids, same idea. It was terrific.
Oh, wow.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, Trombley Associates, and tell us a little bit about what it does.
My father started this company back in 1965. He's a financial planner. My wife and I are financial planners. My wife's also a CPA. We run the company, and my joke is I was a financial guy long before I was ever a pitcher. So we're out of Western Massachusetts, Wilbraham, Massachusetts. And like I said, it's been around since 1965. We do full financial planning, help people retire, and I enjoy it. My father's been telling me forever, Mike, you're going to love doing this. And like I said, that's what I always went to Duke University to do. So I didn't go there to be a baseball player. I knew that probably wasn't going to work out too good. So, but I thank you for plugging our company. It's a terrific company. And, if anybody needs help, find us online, TrombleyAssociates.com. So anyway, it's
great. Jack, anything else for the
No, that's it. 11-year career. Not that many guys played that long. You could hold your head up high over the career.
Oh my God! And rookie,
years,
and rookie of the year.
That's a heck of an achievement.
Yeah.
Just one last question. Was it hard to say goodbye?
At the time, it was not. Looking back now, yes, it was very hard. But at the time, my kids, my 9/11 had just happened. My youngest child was just born. I really was struggling a little bit on the mound. I went to the Dodgers a little bit, went back to the Twins, and really was struggling, and my mind wasn't all there. So at the time, it was very easy, but I do regret. That's one regret I did have. I think I quit a little early, but I wanted to see my kids. And the country was in a different place. But looking back now, I miss it. I miss the guys. Responsibility is not all that great. So I like being a ball player.
Are you a Twin fan now? You were a Red Sox fan growing up. Are you a Twin fan now? Are you still a Red Sox fan? You're not a fan of any particular team.
Well, my whole family Red Sox fans. So I would say, yes, I am a Red Sox fan. I live in Massachusetts. We watch Nesson. All the games are on. But I'm definitely a Twins fan. I'm also an Orioles fan and a Dodger fan. All the teams I play for. I really do. But before I leave, I'm going to tell you, really, this is a real cute story. And a lot of people have heard this, but I was never a guy that thought I was good enough to play in the big leagues. So I was very appreciative and, tried to be very respectful. And I remember the very first time in Minnesota, I got my first big league check. Now, back then, the big league checks are not like today, but it was, I don't know. It was bigger check than I ever had held in my hand. So I'm sitting in my locker room, my first big league check, staring at it, kind of smiling. So Kirby Puckett walks by and says, and he kind of wrapped his arm around me and said, first big league check, huh? I said, yeah. He goes, man, this is a special moment. He said, don't forget this moment. This is a big moment for you. And I kind of said, thanks, Puck. That's pretty cool. And he took out a wad of cash like this big. He goes, hey, you want me to cash it for you?
That's great.
Every pocket. Great.
That's great, Mike. That's great. Hey, we really appreciate you coming on, Mike. We hope to have you back on again. Maybe down the road at the World Series or something. We'd love to have you back. You're a great guest, and thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good talk.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Great.
Well, that was a great Mike Trombley.
Yeah.
A great pitcher. I remember watching him growing up and during his relief days and pitching with the Twins and that. And we were lucky to get him on today. And hopefully, like I said,
I'll tell you, an 11-year career, and he played with some really great players.
Yeah, you can't.
Really outstanding players.
You can't beat to pitch that amount of years, to play any sport that amount of years.
Dave Winfield, Rick Aguilera.
Yeah.
And wasn't Jack Morris part of the '92 team because he was the World Series hero in '91?
I'm not sure, Jack.
I would think he would be there the next year. I'm just going from memory now.
Yeah, it could be, but when I checked out the info, it didn't mention him, so I'm not sure if he was there or not. But great guest. I'm glad we had him on, and hopefully he comes back on with us again. Maybe, like I said, maybe during the World Series, I'll contact him again and see if he comes on. So we're at near the end of the show. So I'd like to give you some history in sports, a little bit of this day in history and things like that, Jack. So I'm gonna try and get that up for you here. And I don't know if let me see. I'm still kind of new at this, but I'm getting.
We got to get them off the screen.
Yes.
If someone doesn't know anything, they just tune in and they'll see it over there. They'll hear you talking. They'll think it was me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go this day in history. In 1940, the Reds' Bucky Walters is the first pitcher in 14 years to hit a home run in the World Series. So that's pretty interesting. I got to tell you a
little story, okay?
Go right ahead.
1965 World's Fair, Flushing, Queens. Okay, I'm a kid. I went to the World's Fair afterwards. The special guest was Jim Mudcat Grant.
Okay.
He was a star pitcher for the Minnesota Twins who lost the World Series in 7 games to the Los Angeles Dodgers that year. But Mudcat Grant had a good World Series. He won Game 6 to keep the Twins alive, and he hit a home run. So we're all online, and I'm a young kid trying to get Mudcat Grant's autograph. When it was my turn, I come up, I get Mudcat Grant's autograph. I say, good shot in the World Series, meaning good home run that he hit. Mudcat Grant looks up at me. He says, you're the first person to mention that today, and I really appreciate it. So for all his pitching excellence, that home run is what he was really proud of, a pitcher hitting a home in the World Series.
Sure. I mean, even to today, Jack, they always talk about the pitchers hitting home runs during batting practice, and I mean, it's good. I think. Not that I don't agree with the DH coming in for all leagues, or at least go to the same. Both conferences should do the same thing with it, whatever it is. But I'm going to kind of miss that when a pitcher comes up and hits that home run or the base hit and drives in the run, and he wins the game because of that. We're going to miss that part.
The day is going to come where they're going to be specialists for each position: a defensive team, an offensive team, and so on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, in 1975, the Big Red Machine beats the Pirates 3-0. The Red Sox beat the A's 3-0, setting up the 1975 World Series between the two powerhouses. I remember that one like it was yesterday, Jack.
What a World Series that was. The Reds outlasted the Red Sox, won the 7th game 4-3. The Red Sox actually stole Game 6. I mean, Reds were winning 6-3. Bernie Carbo hits a 3-run home in the 8th. It goes into extra innings. And, of course, Carlton Fisk hits the famous homer, waving the ball fast, stays fair. And then the next day, Game 7, Don Gullett has really poor control for the Reds. And the Red Sox are winning 3-0 in the 7th inning. But Tony Perez hits a 2-run home off Bill Lee. The Red Sox start. It's 3-2. The Reds get a run in the 8th to tie it. Then they get a run in the 9th to go up 4-3. And they kind of stole the World Series in a way from the Red Sox. I mean, steal in a good way.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say stealing is good in any way. But they found a way to the Big Red Machine to get it done.
Yeah.
But it just gives you an idea of what a great team those Red Sox teams were, with Freddie Lynn, so on, and Carl Yastrzemski, the whole bit.
Sure.
But they just came so close to beating the Big Red Machine and just didn't get it done. And, of course, the next year, 76, the Reds swept the Yankees.
Yeah. I mean, listen, during that 70 period, talking about the local teams, from 75 even 76, I'll go through to 1980. The Red Sox and Yankees, I mean, that was both powerhouse teams. Both, I think, either one of them, if depending on what happened in the year, could have went there and won the World Series. Yankees did a few times. I think the Red Sox team was that close to the Yankees where if they made it in, I think they might have won a couple World Series back then.
Yeah, that's a fair statement to make for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember all the Red Sox players as well as I remember the Yankee players. In 1984, Walter Payton passes Jim Brown as NFL's career rushing leader. A good achievement, I think, a great achievement, really. But taking into effect that the amount of games back then that Jimmy Brown played, the amount of, him quitting in his prime, or Walter Payton played extended amount of years, where he wasn't, he was still a great running back, but not what he was in his prime.
Well, for pure running, Jimmy Brown had a 9-year career. Had Jimmy Brown decided to milk it out for all it was worth and played a few more years, he would have put the records perhaps beyond reach, perhaps.
Right.
But Jimmy Brown was basically a pure runner, and no one could run like him. But Walter Payton did more, would catch passes out of the backfield better, and he would block. Agreed. And if there's any knock on the great Jimmy Brown, he just refused to block. His coach Blanton Collier tried to get him to block. Paul Brown tried to get him to block before that. He just didn't want to block. And he was very stubborn in that way. But he was so iconic, nothing could really be done about it. That would be the equivalent of getting mad at Jerry Rice because when the ball wasn't going to be thrown to him, he wasn't going to run past patterns so allowed. I'm not saying Jerry Rice ever did that.
Right.
That would be, a right type of example to give. Walter Payton, according to Mike Ditka's coach, and he's a little prejudiced, he thought Walter Payton was the greatest football player he ever saw, point blank.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument for that, Jack, as you just said. I mean, not only a good man, a professional, catches the ball, runs with the ball, blocks, a great teammate. I mean, he checked all the boxes. Jimmy Brown was, as you said, a little bit more iconic. But they actually had to design defenses to stop this man. That's how good a running back this guy was. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's hard to compare different errors anyway to begin with because it's different styles and different ways about going about things. But to me, Jimmy Brown will always be the greatest running back in my mind. But I'm going to tell you right now, if Walter Payton or Barry Sanders aren't tied for second, I mean, Walter Payton was an outstanding.
Well, Barry Sanders' dad thought Jimmy Brown was the greatest running back of all time. Barry Sanders' father.
Right. And I mean, there's a legitimate argument that Barry Sanders is the greatest. Also, let's see, Drew Brees in 2012 breaks Johnny Unitas' NFL record with 48 consecutive games with a TV. And Jack, people, I think, because they didn't see him play, don't really realize how great Johnny Unitas was. There was no Super Bowl. Well, he did go to Super Bowl with the Colts, and they did beat Dallas, but that wasn't when Unitas was in his prime. I mean, this guy was an unbelievable quarterback. There's a legitimate argument that he is the greatest quarterback of all time, especially for the era he played in and the amount of records he held for when it was really a running league. So Brees breaks it. Brees going to Hall of Fame. And again, I think people forget.
It's always interesting. What I always wondered about Drew Brees' career, people forget he was the San Diego Chargers starting quarterback, and he did a terrific job. But the Chargers had drafted Phillip Rivers, number 4 overall. He played behind Drew Brees in his rookie year. And the Chargers were going to have a tough decision because Drew Brees was outstanding. The last game of the season, Drew Brees injures his shoulder. Right. That made it easy for San Diego, or easier, to trade him off to New Orleans so Phillip Rivers could move in and be the starter because that's what Phillip Rivers was groomed for. But what happens if Drew Brees doesn't get hurt? He finishes the season. They go to training camp the next year. Does Drew Brees get beaten out by Phillip Rivers, or do they have a Joe Montana, Steve Young situation in which you have a potential Hall of Famer who has to, basically sit on the bench? So I kind of wondered what would have happened had Drew Brees not gotten injured. But chances are, when you draft a guy number 4 overall in the draft, you draft him to play him.
I agree, but that's a heck of a thought, Jack, because, I mean, Drew Brees, you could say that Drew Brees' career, I mean, not that Phillip Rivers doesn't have a great career and he's not a Hall of Famer, but Drew Brees' career far right now outmatches Philip Rivers' career, in my opinion, anyway. So, and birthdays today, there are not a lot of birthdays that I saw, Jack, on the site I was on. You have Priest Holmes, who was a Baltimore's running back, was born in 1973, and the great Charles Woodson, defensive back, was born in 1976. So those are the two main birthdays that I saw anyway. And
Charles Woodson, he beat up Peyton Manning for the Heisman.
yes,
And
he
he
did.
had a terrific NFL career.
Sure.
On top
One
of
of the
it.
best, to me, one of the best defensive backs ever to play the game. So we're almost out of time, Jack. And it was a great show. Great having Mike Tromley with us. And tomorrow we have another couple big guests coming in. So hopefully you all join us tomorrow, same time, 8 to 10. And we'll have another great show, Jack. I mean, we got Scully coming on tomorrow, John Scully. We also have Louis Marciano, the nephew of the great Rocky Marciano, coming in. So it should be a fun show, a lot of boxing, a lot of fun. And please go ahead and join us. And here we go, Jack, another
and
show.
a review of the Yankee game. Let's see what happens.
Yes,
They'll
yes.
either be up 2-1 or down 2-1. They'll either be facing elimination or taking taking a step towards the World Series. We'll see.
Very true. Very true. We'll see what happens, Jack. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day, everybody. I appreciate you all joining us today.